Hello and welcome to this edition of The Verified with me, Mustapha K Darboe. Today I have Immortal Alieu Bah, but of course you are called Immortal also.
Yes.
Which one is more popular?
So it went through a sort of an gestation or an evolution, one might say. There was a time when Immortal was more popular.
Yeah.
It was a time people didn't even know my name because it was like my Facebook name. And but eventually I removed it and I put my real name. And everyone is on social media these days.
Yeah.
So now it's like 50-50. There is Immortal there is Alieu there. There's even people who just call me X, because it's Immortal X. So yeah. But I think Alieu has gone farther away than, yeah. I think with age also.
Welcome to The Verified. It's your first time being here.
Yes, yes.
It's also not a very long time since I started this.
Yeah, so maybe there will be a reoccurrence. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for being able to make it. Let's first look at the issue of you. You were born in Sanyang, right?
Yes. No, Gunjur. But I was raised in Sanyang.
Oh, I have thought all along you were born in Sanyang.
Yes, I try to say Sanyang as much as I can. I don't Gunjur call Mutolele. How can I come from? They're my people.
Okay, I didn't know. But it's one coastal.
Yeah, it's something next
door.
door.
Almost the same, the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay, how was your life like growing up?
Did
you grow up there? Or?
I did. I grew up in Sanyang. Up to a certain level, then I moved when I was still very young. I was like maybe 14. So I had like a very hybrid upbringing. You have the rural sort of. I mean, Sanyang is not really rural, is it? It's like semi-rural. Or what was the name the local governments used to use? Peri-urban or something. Yeah, I used to find that very interesting. I think it's like a combination of periphery and urban. Yeah. And then I had sort of the urban. I think we used to meet those days. It's a long time ago, at GPU.
Yeah.
I used to steal their books. And writing for the Young Observer with Abdou Jata of blessed memory. So I had the best of both worlds. That's why I have a very strong Mandinka and also a very strong Wolof. And also, but my Fula is very weak because of, because I grew up in so many diverse places.
Yeah. And you had a career in the media also.
Yes, I did. I was always very interested.
When I was there.
Yes. Briefly, yeah. I think I was like the first editorial writer, who was employed just to write editorials. I also had a weekly column. I was there for a few years. But even earlier, I remember it was Chief Ibrahim Mane who had taught me how to write a newspaper article. There was a couple of us. I'd found Abdou Jata there and Haja Kebe, the Young Observer used to run on Fridays. Yeah, so it's been like a long sort of trajectory in the media. But then I think Standard was more like the crowning, where I actually was getting paid for it. And then I'd left. I did go back subsequently, but then I left again because I had some other engagements. Yeah.
I guess he would say, "Ila silo wantilim." Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and then you were of many things. I mean, you were a writer, you were a poet, you were a journalist, but then you were also an activist. I would say an activist is a natural outcome of your very life.
I think I really actually struggle with the word activism. For me, I think it arose out of a certain consciousness.
Yeah.
Because early on in my life, when I was 14, I had joined the AAPRP.
Yeah.
Usman Kagbo, Usman Kagbo used to work at the Point. I don't know whether he's still around. He used to run these
Kagbo
study.
Is still around.
Yes, the study group at Bundung of the AAPRP, the All African People Revolutionary Party, which was founded by Kwame Ture and people like Lamin Jaha of Gambia, in Conakry in '69 under Nkrumah's tutelage. So it's basically, I think that's about. It's like there was always this, I had always had this certain desire, to know more. I was very curious. And that's one of the reasons why I actually stopped going to school in 2007 when I was 14. So I'd never even gone to high school because it was like, it's a waste of time. I wanted to know more. So I'd spend a lot of time reading, stealing books in libraries, which I'm not proud of, because stealing is a bad, but I admire people who steal books just to read them, not of course to sell them, which I happen to be a proud member of the book stealers. But now I don't steal books, I can buy them now. Also, meeting different people and just talking, and, that intense curiosity, I think sort of led to, this outcome became that I knew a bit too much, and I knew that this status quo and how it's built is a lie. It's built on a lie. And I think I was actually one of the first young people to speak openly against the Jammeh regime, because I could just see the lie. Jammeh was not a mystical figure for me anymore. I remember when I finished reading Revolutionary Suicide by Huey P. Newton, the founder of the Black Panther Party, his autobiography. By the time I was done with that book, I was like, I feel like I'm a revolutionary. I want to be a revolutionary. I want to change the society. So with the Jammeh mystique gone, it was just now to struggle. So I tried to be part of different formations, different organizations at that time.
Would it just be what you were reading, sort of the intellectual growth you had experienced from what you had read, or that also they were speaking to your own personal experience?
Yes. That's the thing.
Growing up in the Gambian society, seeing life, poverty, deprivation all around you, and things. Product of.
Because the thing is, what the books have done is just to illuminate your reality for you. These books they're also the products of certain material conditions, certain concrete realities. And the realities of, let's say, even black people the world over are not so different. So these people were trying to confront these realities, like Cabral. I read a lot of, actually, I think out of all my revolutionary learnings, Cabral has had the greatest impact on me. I actually wrote an essay about it. Cabral was just here. It's like a 5-hour drive or 6 hours and you are in Bissau. So the conditions were very similar in so many ways than one. It's an agrarian society. This is an agrarian society. All of those things. We're all products of a colonial system. And almost the same languages are spoken here. So it was not so much even the books. What the books did was to explain to me why these things are here. Why is there so much poverty? Why is there so much religion? Not religion per se, but fatalism. Why is there so much determinism, like in our society? Why is there so much oppression, of women, for example, and all of these things. So the books were able to explain that this is not the doing, because where I grew up in this country, I think for all of us, is the first explanation has always been a metaphysical explanation, a religious explanation, a spiritual explanation. Nimo Sasada, Sasalem, Fonyolam, is witchcraft, is this. If somebody dies, is witchcraft, if you are sick, you can have something as simple as malaria, but somehow it has to do with witchcraft. And when you ask why we are poor, it has to do with, it's God. God decides who has what and who doesn't have what. Why is this guy is president, and it's God who put him there. These were not sufficient for me.
But do you not think also those were sort of not just, they were not realities, of course, but they were sort of created by the elites who control those privileges to sort of subjugate the rest of the society. So, for example, men created a condition that subjugates women to men control.
Yes.
And created some kind of religious beliefs, even though those beliefs may not be found in the religion.
Yes.
To actually subjugate. So it's always a battle of the privileged versus the underprivileged.
Yeah. So basically, years later, I will have the language to explain that. Like today, because when you look at Marxism, Marxism explains this, I think, better than a lot of other social sort of ideologies or, sort of theories that try to attempt to explain society. As Marxism talks about the base of society and the superstructure of it. And that the one who controls the economic base more times than not will control the superstructure, which is the realm of ideas.
Yeah.
The legal matter, the issue of law, the issue of, the media, religion, all of these things that are beholden to ideas.
Yeah.
And now explained by those who control the means.
Yeah.
So it becomes this thing where one of the best and easiest ways to control a people is through religion. So you will find even religion is against a lot of these things. It's very clear in its position. For example, we know that Islam doesn't encourage poverty. It doesn't say that people should be poor.
No.
It actually creates a system where the rich
People
would
should
actually have to relinquish a part of their wealth to the ones who are needy.
Yeah.
And it creates a society where even there is a cooperative bank, the Baitul Mal, for example. Yeah. But no, we don't. We are not taught this at most times. Even in this country, like the scholars don't talk about zakat a lot.
No.
It's unnecessary because the assumption is people are too poor to even give zakat. But so at the edifice of these religions, Christianity or Islam, there is a radical ethos for equality, a radical ethos of equality. But but then we have the religion of the oppressor. We have the religion that is fed to the oppressed. There is the religion that it's what you will call the old woman's religion. It's non-questioning, it is non-threatening, it is docile, it is lethargic. This is the type of religion that we were fed. So when I actually, even like in my formative years, there was a time when I was with the Tabligh Jamaat, which is called the Markaz.
Markaz.
Yes. Because I was like really, I wanted to know stuff, I tried that, didn't work. I tried with the Salafis, it didn't work, Then I got into Sufism.
You tried with Banyas people.
That's I'm still stuck with. That I think that was able to explain for me certain things.
You used to come with a lot of Banyas later stuff.
Yes. I'm still very consistent with that path, which I think for me is able to explain.
It helps you to rationalize the world.
Yes, I mean it's a profound thing, and let me adjust this conversation a little bit because what had also happened is what colonialism did to us was that it made us belittle our knowledge, our epistemologies, our ways of being, even our ontologies. It became a thing where even the way they named our scholars, they call them marabouts, they call them clerics. They gave them these names that made them look like they're just people who deal with like Sappho, talisman and some libations. That's their thing. They're not supposed to be people who have rigor in their knowledge.
They are not scholars.
They're not scholars. This is what one of these scholars, Zachary Wright, called what they used to call Negro Islam. And so in discrediting our scholarly tradition, what were we left with? We were left with now imbibing an Islam, because Islam is also culturally imperative. It's for example, when you go to Mecca right now, when there's Hajj, or there's Umrah, and people are not like in the ihram, they're just wearing their traditional clothes. You would know that's a Mauritanian, that's a Moroccan, that's from Guinea-Conakry. It's not uniform, it's not a monolith. So West African Islam has a long, a trajectory, great scholarly trajectory, but we were turned away from that.
I mean, of course, we not to turn the conversation into this, but we notice when we see the Tuaregs burned, tons of historical books
in Timbuktu. So these are the things that
Sirin Tuba actually had a whole literary.
I mean, Sheikh Ibrahim Niass, for example, published so much. The first time I actually came up across a book translated into English of Sheikh Ibrahim, I was shocked. I was like, the Pioneers wrote books. For me, it was just a guy with a lot of followers, He wrote so many books. I have like a lot of, I've studied with his students, with his children, people who knew him and studied under him. So there's a profound, going back to, of course, what we're talking about, there is a profound connection between what this sort of religion that we are used to in our society and how we turned away from this scholarly tradition. Because you see, these people also struggled against colonialism.
But then also there is that political Islam, like that Islam that serves the elites. And the fundamental, that Islam that was used to now make a sort of mental conditioning that is conducive for oppression. But then the people also have always, in a way, tried to push back.
Because you see, it's a dialectic, right? The dialectic is, there will always be contradiction. Wherever you have this, you will have this, and they're contradictory, and their movement will constitute the struggle in society. There will always be within the poor those who question those things, like something is not right about this narrative, and in that there will be an organic consciousness that rises within that. And of course, people will, in that time, they might not have the language for it, so they will use even the language of the oppressor to try to counter. Like they will use that same religion to say, no, we've gone back to the religion. They've found some evidence against this thing that they've been fed to be kept in their place. So that's the same with our struggle, right? In the struggle for dignity, our struggle as Pan-Africanist, as Marxist, is that these are not theories that can be imported. We are not importing any theories. What we are doing is applying it to the realities that exist in order to explain them.
You're hanging on to ideas that speak to your reality. What drew you to issue of Marxism? But sort of let's just broadly, socialism, because you also unapologetically socialist. Do you think that socialism is the path for economic salvation?
I believe that we in Africa exist under neo-colonialism. This new colonialism controlled by international financial institutions like the IMF, the World Bank. Earlier we were just talking about the IMF and all of that, and how they actually control your economic grid. The World Bank, of course, the International Trade Organization. You have the Western countries. That literally tell you what to do. So when you have a society like that, neo-colonialism being the outgrowth of classic colonialism, colonialism which actually supported and created this monster called capitalism, slavery and colonialism being its architecture, the primitive accumulation of capital itself. Now, to subvert that system, you cannot change it with what created it. Neo-colonialism, at the end of the day, being a form of imperialism, and imperialism being a form of capitalism, of monopoly capitalism, you cannot change that system by bringing the same system that gave birth to it. It's unscientific. Whereas we know that socialism, for example, is as clear as day. That just to go back a little bit to clarify, we can only have two economic systems. There is no middle ground. Every time you try the middle ground, you will pander to one of these.
Mixed economy.
It's either the wealth is for the many or the wealth is for the few. The moment you cannot, there's this thing of mixed economy always ends up going back to capitalism. It cannot sustain itself. Because what eventually happens...
What's the fundamental flaw with capitalism? Is it the idea that, because look, we know the society is unequal. We know the brain power of individuals are unequal. We know people's level of creativity will be unequal. But everybody cannot build, no one can build wealth where there is no public participation in the building of that wealth. So is it the issue of capitalism, it's some kind of a, is there an immorality to it? Is that the fundamental problem? Because if you allow an environment and say, okay, look, everybody is allowed to create or build wealth, people are going to build wealth, and
Yes.
probably you are going to end up with a highly unequal society, but you're going to have a couple of millionaires maybe.
Yes, but you've already answered the question of
Yeah.
capital. The problem is, capitalism tends toward monopolizing
Yeah.
wealth. Yeah, nobody on this earth has ever been a millionaire by doing it themselves. But the more they make those millions, the more they impoverish the million people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the sense of accumulation of capital also dispossesses at the same time.
Yeah.
So the more you accumulate here, the more you are dispossessing somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like when you are digging for sand. The more sand you dig, the more hole, the deeper the hole gets.
Yeah.
So that's what capitalism does, in essence. It's an immoral system. It's a barbaric system that that a few or one person can exploit the labor power of a lot of people and just compensate them so that they can only reproduce themselves, but they cannot produce for themselves at a level where they can break free of that dependence. Like,
but if they break free from that independence, the capitalism itself would die because there will be independence.
exactly.
And labor force and independence doesn't just go together.
No. The thing is, capitalism is...
Because if I have enough to not
I mean, if
be
you know,
exploited by you, I will run away.
If I'm like a day laborer, yeah, my rent is 500 a month, yeah. You are paying me 10,000 a month, yeah. Very soon I will not need you. But now, if my rent is 500, my food is 300. Let's say in a month I need like 3,000, and you pay me 3,500. I will need to come back.
Yeah.
I will need to be coming back because I need that 500 to reproduce myself. That is to eat, to take care of things, and all of those things. I need that money. But that money is not enough for me to become financially independent, to be economically independent. So the cycle of dependency that capitalism creates it's so ridiculous. For example, when people say, when you work hard one day, one day you can retire. So you see, somebody has been working, looking for that retirement, and they're 60. What can you really be? Now you are retired, you're a pensioner, let's say at 70. You've worked your whole life, got nothing. Actually, even those pension that you are looking for, usually the state under capitalism takes it from you.
Yeah.
So,
but then also again, if you have a capitalism system that's highly regulated, where people are, there are adequate labor laws, there are maybe good pension benefits, there are how do you call it, low wages, they are, probably could.
I don't. The thing is that have been tried, right?
Yeah, it has been tried.
People that's basically the welfare state that you're talking about. This welfareism, this Keynesian economic doctrine that the state must intervene, not the state. Basically, let me explain this in simple terms.
Yeah.
The state intervenes in the market, but doesn't mean that it is a socialist system.
No, it doesn't mean it's not the state
regulates.
Controlling, it's state regulating.
Yes, it regulates the market.
Yeah.
But what happened with that?
But the private are the investors.
Yes.
But the state regulates heavily.
But what happened to that project? The welfare state was existing, let's say, in the West for a long time. But towards the 70s, 80s, with the advance of neoliberalism, what is at the heart of the neoliberal project is the deregulation of the market. Yeah. That the market must operate freely away from the state. The state cannot intervene in the market anymore. The free market economy. But just how free is the market, So when that happened, which is currently, where do you have a welfare state even in the world right now? It's almost impossible to find. And when you find it, it is so messed up. England and the Scandinavian countries used to be like the beacon of welfareism. But today, NHS in the UK, is the National Health Service, is damaged beyond repair, we might say. When you go to the Scandinavian countries, which people still tout as the social democratic model that was successful, they have high rates of mental issues. Norway has one of the highest suicide rates in the world. What happened there? If you have all of these and you have regulated, what exactly? Because sense of isolation and the sense of individualism that capitalism also breeds. So capitalism becomes not only an economic system, it becomes a social system. It penetrates into the individual in the life of society.
Economic infrastructure is a social system.
Yes, it's a social system. But you see, sometimes people talk of capitalism as some sort of, it's only economic. But we know that the economic system is a transactional business carrying, different social forces together. So even those systems that we're saying, whereas you can regulate capitalism always tends towards a monopoly.
Yeah.
When let's say, okay, we have capitalism. I mean, Gambia is just a neo-colonial entity. We need a capitalist or socialist.
We are a crony capitalist state.
I don't think so. We're maybe a crony.
Yeah.
Like sort of a comprador capitalism. Yes. Yeah. But not really. I mean, we don't have a fully functional capitalist system. We're just a neo-colonial entity.
Our productivity is quite on the low end. But
it is.
Now, let's look at the issue of, because I'm going to come to issue of socialism and within the Gambian context. Because I've read a number of works and also, even before our era, Khalifa tried to profile a social solution to the Gambian problem. And a lot of us must have read some of his works and some of his writings and the policies he has. Before we come to that, we are in a world right now that is hyper-capitalist environment. And it doesn't help with the coming of the what some call the tech feudal lords, like the Elon Musk, the Jeff Bezos, they control the market everywhere, and so that these people are like in charge of they're the tech feudal lords. Like for example, unless he continues to be frustrated, Elon Musk's internet will soon be in the Gambia, and we can't even regulate it because it's in the skies. So and we cannot control its traffic because it's in the skies. We have no such. So you that's the area you are going. You have one capitalist sitting in America controlling chains of businesses all over the world.
That's what I was talking about, that capitalism always tends towards a monopoly. It doesn't know how to redistribute. But that's what the example I was trying to make. Like, for example, when a supermarket comes into this area, it has everything that the corner store has, but it's a bit cheaper than the corner store. But there's something the corner store had, the corner shop, the boutique, that this one doesn't have. It has a social relation with the people. You can go and take a loan on days when you don't have anything. But now, people start going to the supermarket. The supermarket doesn't have that sort of relationship with the community. But eventually it subsumes the corner shops. They become irrelevant and they move away. So you see,
they move away, but that monopoly also makes the people even more vulnerable. Because that means once the supermarket is comfortable now,
it will increase its prices.
It will jack up the prices.
That's basically what happens. It subsumes and then controls and then adjusts itself and lords over the people.
And that's what the fear about Starlink in the Gambia is. Folks thought that, not only does the Gambia invest a lot in internet infrastructure, but also there are a lot of internet service providers. Even though they are doing so badly, but they fear that when Starlink comes,
they will be obsolete.
They will be obsolete. And by the time it's a monopoly, he can jack up his price.
And you can't do anything about it. That's why we must always, that's why there needs to be that growing consciousness about what capitalism is and how we can transcend it. Because as long as capitalism exists, there will always be these deep pockets of inequality and dispossession everywhere.
But somebody could say, for example, that there is nothing wrong with individuals going into business and making money for themselves. And make as many primitive accumulation as they can.
People can say that, but the thing is, see, that argument is centered on the individual. But the individual can only become someone within the collective. Nobody goes into business and then do everything by themselves. Because let's say, let me give this example. When the businessman comes with his capital or her capital and goes to the market, they need to buy certain things. Amongst them is labor power. Because under capitalism, the labor power of our laborer becomes a commodity. You know, you buy that, you are like, okay, I need to buy your labor from 9 to 5. And during that 9 to 5, your time, your labor power belongs to me. That's the contract. So the capitalist or the business person goes to the market, buys the machinery for production, and then maybe buys land, which is also part of the means of production, and then builds this place. But let's say now he has built a factory for producing this phone, right? Now, when he goes to produce this phone, he is the owner, right? Is he the one building the phone? He perhaps might even join the laborers. But there's people who are working, to make this stuff. But see, if so let's do a little bit of political economy for people to understand. Now, let's say this phone, my day wages is $25, or let's say $30 is an even number would be better. $30 is, and if I make this phone, each of the phones I make is $10, right? If I make 3 of these phones, let's say from 9 to 12 p.m., I have made 3 of these phones. That is already $30.
You've already made.
I've already made the worth of why I'm there. So what happens then to the rest of those hours?
So you just
I'm working free.
Equitably, reasonably good pay for labor.
It's impossible under capitalism for you to be. I mean, of course, that's why there's labor unions and trade unions, fighting to bring to have better wages. What you can hope for is better wages, but I cannot give you the amount of money that would also affect my need for profit, because we have to understand that, like Marx said in Capital Volume 1, that capitalism has its own iron laws. It doesn't even have mercy for the capitalists. That's why you see capitalists go bankrupt all the time. It's a rat race. It's not about whether you are a good capitalist or a bad capitalist. It's not even about morality. It's about the fact that if you don't follow these iron laws of capital, you end up going bankrupt.
But if you have, we have to go back to the internationalized system. So if you have a system where I can procure labor across the border, that's always the case here. Now you have internationalized systems where, for example, if I am a tech company, you have US companies that are procuring services from countries like India, other places where labor is cheaper.
So even so I think there's a term for it. What did someone call it? The disarticulation of production, right? So yes, that's the thing. Today, you see, for example, it's become even difficult to even regulate capital, right? So I am making this phone, the screen is made in China. The chip is made in Sweden. And all of this, then you see it's like they've internationalized production in a way that it's completely disarticulated. So oh my God, it's so bad.
So the alternative here, let's bring it home. So we've seen in the Gambian system particularly, we've seen quite a vicious one, where, so for example, I mean, the state is not poor.
No.
It's mismanaged. I think that's one thing we'll agree on. And you have, but the state is not investing. Because to move toward socialism, state has to be investing. But state also has to be efficient in investing. And in the Gambia case, the state has failed that. Like, how do you bring in a socialist experiment in a highly inefficient, unproductive, carefree economy like this one?
You know, socialism is about the socialization of wealth.
Yeah.
But you can only socialize wealth when you have it.
Yeah.
You know, so what we have in Gambia is that they invest, but for who and on behalf of who? They actually do invest, you know,
Yeah.
but they invest for themselves. So they steal from the people and then they invest it for themselves. I think some of your investigative reports have shown us clearly how that cycle, that vicious cycle of taking from the masses and financing yourself and those ones close to you has been revealed. I mean, we've seen it very clearly. You know, there's the last report that you published. So yes, there is an investment, but it's an individualist, nepotistic investment. Yeah. Whereas what should have been happening is that the state regulating itself, first of all, you know, and doing a concrete survey and understanding of this society and what needs to be done. What can we do with this ocean for the people? What can we do with all this arid land, you know, this arable land that we have? You know, what can we do even with the wind, you know, the atmospheric resources? No, there's a lot of resources that are here because the creation of wealth is the combination of labor and nature. And we have both.
But the problem is, Ali, the state is into a lot of things. So, for example, let's look at the state's own investment so far. So if you look at all the investments, Gambia, it's probably more quasi-socialist in the 60s, 70s, towards the 80s than it is now. Look, we have, like, even though they were poorly managed, but we had a bank for the farmers that was facilitating investment for farmers. Even though it was so poorly managed, it couldn't survive. We had import companies, a company that was importing NTC and consumer, you know, you remember back in the day, you used to go to a shop called Consumer in the village. And
Consumer.
Those are government importations and all these things. And those things were here. There were some local structures that were adequately invested in. Not
the
adequately,
Visaka banks, you
yes.
know.
So there were some, but now even institutions such as Gamcel are collapsing. Ports is being sold off. Even the airport soon will be commercialized because there is a mantra in the Gambia that the state cannot invest. That the state, how do they say it? State cannot do business.
So that's the thing, yeah. Like, let's look at China, yeah. The Communist Party of China. I happen to be one of the people from the left who believe that China is still on the socialist path.
Yeah.
I mean, this is very debatable in the left, even outside the left. But I'm sure we can have another episode about that because it's a long conversation. But looking at China's model, the Chinese Communist Party, which is also the state, controls the most important sectors of the Chinese economy. And this is precisely why China is the first country in the modern world to abolish absolute poverty. You know, this is verified by the UN, I think UNDP or something. You know, not some propaganda coming from China, but from external actors that China was able to abolish. I mean, this is the second most populated country in the world. And you look at Gambia, it's 2.5 million people.
Yeah.
We're not even, you know, we're like some city, you know, like we are like literally a fraction of Nairobi's population, the city of Kenya. So the state can do business. But you see, this is what happened. When you look at it, the inefficiency had actually pushed the people to convince themselves that whatever the state touches, it destroys. Because that's actually what happens.
Yeah, but the
so
state,
people themselves,
whatever the state touches, it destroys.
yes,
actually.
because the people, and now what happens? It's so perverted that the people themselves are the ones who are asking for these things to be privatized.
Yeah.
You hear people saying, if NAWEC is private, we will have service.
Yeah.
Because people are like, okay, it's still with the government. We don't get no electricity.
Even though it will be expensive.
But at least people feel like they will have these things. But these things were never supposed to be privatized. You know, the ports, the airport, the electricity grid, the power grid, the water grid. These things were never supposed to be, these things were supposed to belong to the Gambian people, but because of the inefficiency, the poor, corrupt management of these things, when even they privatize, people are like, thank God, because if not, it will all fall apart. But that is not a vindication. That is not to say the state cannot do business. Yes, the state can actually do business. And even in these privatization processes, how much money do they siphon off into their own accounts? So it is a thing where Gambia, how do you even characterize a political and economic system as this one?
So, for example, let's look at practical cases where state does come in instead of state, where even state is doing business with the communities themselves. State cheat the communities. Okay, so for example, in communities where you come from, Sanyang, Gunju, you said, there is black sand mining. There is mineral mining. And there are also a number of activities that are ongoing in those places by state. But the state does not get to, the communities themselves don't get to benefit from this. I mean, the last I checked, the payment geology makes to Brikama Area Council was a fraction and of how much they Gatu was supposed to be making in those areas. And if you look at it, I mean, you look at the recent audits, 2021, 2022, there are a lot of things are flagged about black sand mineral mining. And so if you look at state and its relationship with the people, I mean, on one side, your view is that the state needs to be more socialist, needs to be in charge of the means production and the exchange. But that state in itself is cheating its own people. And it's highly inefficient. It's
not even, I think when we use the word inefficiency, it actually even belittles the problem. These people are not even, they're not capable. Literally, since Barrow came to power, up to now, you point to me one institution that is working, just one. A public institution that is working and everybody's like, yes, these ones are the best. I'll wait. None. Literally none. There is not one institution. The only institution that is working here is the institution of corruption. That machine is well oiled. But apart from that institution, that institutionalized corruption, nothing else is working in this country. I mean, look, even the roads that have been built, these new roads, they're already flooding. They're creating havoc in some communities because the water doesn't have a proper way of moving, So there's literally nothing that is working. And at the same time, you have this for example, this mining, this black sand mining that is happening, which is ravaging those communities, destroying the environment, literally making those communities vulnerable to the climate catastrophes that are coming or are already here, So you have...
They are mining on the coastline.
Yes, along the coast. And I mean, the Hyper area where they were mining the white sand, it's scary when you see how close that is to the ocean.
Even Tujereng, it's right on the beach.
So on one hand, you are taking without giving to the community, and on the other end, you're not even stopping there. You are destroying what could actually not even a source of income or resources for people, but their livelihood, where they live, they're endangered. Because if the ocean rises, and which is bound to happen, according to climate scientists, that the ocean, as the ice caps melt, the ocean is rising. And if it rises a little bit, it will cover it, Sanyang and Tujereng and them. Who is safe after that? So the gross negligence, the inefficiency, the incapability, all of these things, it points to one thing, is that the government of the Gambia doesn't care for its people. The people are just mere sort of props and pawns in their own race for surplus, for wealth.
There is an alternative though. I mean, it's PDIS, People's Democratic Organization for Independence and Socialism. I mean, for socialists, I mean, I'm a socialist. I mean, by orientation, but I'm not PDIs. I'm not. I'm not a
Yes, I
member
am
of
neither.
PDI.
I believe that I really don't like.
But it is a socialist
It
oriented
is, yes, it is socialist
institution.
oriented. Um, yeah, we will leave it at that. We'll have another time to discuss the contradictions of
Now,
PDIs.
yeah, if you look at the Gambian situation, I mean, you look at so for me, when I look at the Gambian situation, and one of the reasons why I justifies the need for state to be heavily invested in Gambian economy and state to be heavily involved in key areas of the economy is that often you see, in fact, even the private capital that is available in the Gambia, it's skewed towards procurement, where there are heavy kickbacks, where there
Yeah,
are government contracts,
yeah.
procurement of vehicles here, this, that. You don't see them in sectors like agriculture.
No.
There are those who are there, they are still struggling. They don't have access to capital. If they do, they would be giving them access with some kind of conditions
Yes.
that kick back underneath. I mean,
So this is what we have for real, yeah. The government in Gambia is it's like an investment board. It's not really a government that is regulating anything in this country. It's more like an investment board, and the president is also like a chief auctioneer, selling the country to the highest bidder. And all the other ministers are just junior auctioneers, and people who are facilitators of some sort. Because what we have is a comprador middleman type of engagement with international capital. They want something, we just facilitate for them. That's basically what it is. So like you said, what they are mostly interested in is some sort of where they can get the most kickbacks, where they can get the most money, where they can accumulate the most wealth. But I think this is pretty obvious. So now what we must think about is, what is the solution to all of this?
that's where I was coming to.
Yes.
Because, for example, right now, one of the most talked about issues are the protests that are ongoing. When it started with, and quite frankly, it's gained a lot of success, even though, I mean, some people don't seem to buy that. They think that the protests have not yielded much. But I think that if there was no protest, there would not have been any issue. There would not have been a parliamentary inquiry right now into the sale and management
Yes.
of the assets of the former president. And so, what do we do? Like, because if you look at the political scene right now, I mean, you just hesitated to identify yourself with the only socialist political party in the Gambia. And you look around the others, I mean, of course, with the exception of new ones that may come, you look around the existing, how do they call it, legacy parties. I mean,
I think like when we boil our problem down to political parties of this nature, we sort of lose sight of where the solution might be.
okay.
In that, first of all, what we do have, like I was telling you earlier, is a ragtag of political parties that are overwhelmingly run by some middle class, educated, petite bourgeoisie, that usually are not very much in touch with the realities of the masses per se. Um, and the other thing is, we cannot get out of this rut without a vigorous political education. Not civic education. Civic education is easy. Is you know your right. I mean, the problem with civic education, let me just take a detour and attack or criticize civic education a little bit. The problem with civic education in this country or in the African context is, you tell people, go teach people they have the right to this, they have the right to that, yada, yada, yada. You have the right to health, right? You go to Sanyang clinic. There is no doctor, there is no medicine. What's the use of your right? Because rights can only become something if you can realize them.
If you can realize
Yes,
that.
but the lack of the realization of rights. Now that is where the civic education stops and then political education begins. Why is there no doctor? Where there is no hospital? What are the intricacies of this system? the system must be unveiled for people to see it. Because if not, even if you put an angel in the state house, they will be corrupt.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. Like, we keep going back into sort of, it's like a mill that keeps producing corrupt leaders, and not just corrupt leaders, inefficient leaders, incompetent leaders, and we keep in the circle. But
so that's this. So
each
going
election,
back to,
after each election, we get shocked at the outcome.
Because this is the thing: is that we must create a political instrument of the people that will have to overturn, because this state, as it is built, if it is not overturned and overhauled completely, it cannot produce anything other than what we have. The system itself when Jawara came as president of this country, what did he really change in the state machinery? It is the same colonial state.
Yeah.
And the colonial state was built for what? For profit, for extraction.
For exploitation.
Yes. So the state was never built for the development of this country.
It's still a colonial infrastructure.
Yes. And if you cannot change that, I mean, the educational system, when these people brought education, the colonial system, not the missionaries brought it because they wanted to convert people to Christianity. The state, when they build those educational systems, is just to have translators, to have clerks, to have drivers, to have laborers. It was for them an ends.
It's still in the service of the state.
The state. It was not to create enlightened human beings. Of course, during that process, there were people who rebelled against that norm, and they were able to learn something, E.F. Small and all of these people. But by and large, the educational system it's a utilitarian system. It is just to create slaves for the system. The educational system was not created to create people who can question, who can think for themselves, who can be creative, who can be critical.
How then do you create that army of rebels who are going to be, I used to say that the way we mobilize foreign aid is the same way we should mobilize the mindsets, the right mindsets of the people. But how then do you do that? Because right now you are talking about a highly colonial, very vicious state that doesn't mind ordering police to go and smash those they call our people.
Yeah.
So if you look at the contradiction, the police officer is your brother, but he's in the uniform, and he considers himself as a member of a different team. And that's the team of the president, so to speak. Against you. And both of you are on the street, subjugated by the same poverty, but on different teams. And yet you are confronting the same problem. So it's a kind of
Fanon talks about cognitive dissonance, right? And the fact that somebody can know the truth, but because of that programming, that conditioning, they will deny the truth. Like, for example, Gambians would tell you, oh, these politicians, they're always lying, they promise, they come and tell us things, and they never do it. But who are the first people to go and vote for them? In fact, fight over them. Kill each other over them.
Tribes
hate each other over them. Yes. The same people who say that. Because, so in that process of creating a new awakening in this country is to look at the very idea of voting, the ballot. So people tell you, if you listen to these civic educators, your vote is your voice. What voice? I mean, listen, my vote is my voice, but has my voice been heard in this country? Like, in fact, in trying to make my voice heard, I get thrown up in a pickup 2 times in a row this year. So where is that voice of mine? And the fact that you can only change this country through the ballot. Is that really? If you see, so our people, our presidents.
Election is democracy.
Yes. So people have this, these presidents have this grace period every 5 years to do whatever they want.
Yes.
I mean, there is the option of impeachment. there is the option of the citizens going out and telling the president to step down. This has happened in many places all over the world. So,
and the responsibility is the agreement that the president ultimately agrees to with the voters at the ballot.
yes.
And that responsibility is to rule by day. So every day is a test. If he fails that day, the test that day is justified to be out of office.
Yeah. So that's the thing. But you see, because even this, I'm still at the issue on the issue of political education.
Yeah.
Because even this civic education, it helps to cement the state. You know, because you are telling people that they should just be patient. You know, just wait it out. Wait for election.
But the state is the institution that establishes civil education.
Exactly. It is one of the ideas of the ruling class.
Yes.
And even in the event that people protest, yeah. So protest is always a catch-22, right?
Yeah.
If we protest and there's no incidents, the credit doesn't go to the protesters. Actually, it goes to the state.
To the government, yes.
Because they say, oh, they're very democratic, you know. So all of this boils down to how do we understand the world as it is?
Yeah.
Because we have to first come. We have to come as we are to the world as it is.
Yeah.
We cannot. No matter how much I try to distort reality in my head, the reality exists.
Yeah.
I can deny this camera. I can say this is not a camera, but that doesn't change the fact that objectively
Yes,
this
yes.
is a camera.
Yes.
So we have to look at the objective reality of this land. Where is the revolutionary class of society? Yeah, the young, the unemployed, the people who are disillusioned. They have no jobs, nothing. You know, they are poor. People who are struggling day in, day out, just to feed their kids. You know, these people need to come together into a cohesive block as a class of people who must now recognize themselves as a class separate from this ruling class.
But those people themselves do not consider themselves as a victim of the circumstance of the government. They think that poverty is created by God.
This is why I began with political education.
Yeah.
That people, this is going to be a long struggle. Yeah. Listen, Gambia was created as a colonial state in 1889.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got whatever independence
Yeah.
in 1965. Of course, some people are saying 1970. This is an ongoing debate.
Yeah.
I happen to not even care. Because, I mean, I don't know what independence we're really talking about.
It's a strange issue.
Yes.
I mean.
The neocolonial state is an image of the colonial state that we live under right now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a long, determined, patient, protracted struggle for us to clarify to the people exactly what this state is and where you belong in this state, in this system, where you are, why you are going through what you're going through, why you have been excluded from the creation of your own reality. And it's going to take time. It's not going to be, because whenever we are haphazard, we saw with the haphazard thing of removing Jame where we ended up. So it has to be a scientific, rational, objective struggle. You know, it cannot be a thing of, oh, let's just build a party and then we support this person and they come.
Then, okay, I agree with you on this, that there is the party, there is the government.
Yes.
Okay, so the party is a vehicle to the government.
Yes.
Okay, but then there is the masses who are everyday people who have to endure whatever the government comes up with. And the government is the investment of those people.
Yes.
So those people must be educated to know on daily basis the government must do what they want.
Yes.
Or the government goes.
Yes.
And so...
But you see now, what also must emerge from this movement that is doing that is out of a determined necessity, there must arise within those people a political instrument. The party must rise out of the people. And this party, because you cannot do anything without power. If you want to create a new society, you must have power. So the party, the way our parties have emerged since the first party that was created, it was just a couple of educated people who come together to create a party. Yeah, and it has never been indigenized. Our parties are really not indigenized. They're only indigenized at a tribal level, but not at a class level. Of course, you know, some parties will try to invoke that we are a party of the poor people and whatnot. But they don't go to the poor, they don't sit with the poor. There's actually not one political party in this country that has a political school that teach Gambians, even if it's civic education, sir.
But Alieu, that in itself is like Marx say, capitalism has within its own seed of destruction. If you,
Yes,
if you,
the grave diggers, the grave
yes.
diggers of capital.
So if you also educate the people, the politics will have it within itself its own seed of this,
Yes.
seed of its own destruction, because
Yes.
control goes against the idea of education.
Yes.
Education goes against the idea of control.
Yes.
So
that's the thing.
it's not in the interest of the politics to educate.
Yes. That's what actually makes it sad. Is why are you creating political parties? What is really the vision behind it? Because if the vision is truly to create a new society, then you should be able to educate people on how to build that new society. Because that power must organically come from the people. So once you are in power, the people will get to work. I mean, that's why I don't believe in this notion of activism and all of, you know, this thing of, oh, you always have to fight for something, you have to fight against something. You know, I mean, recently somebody was asking me, why is it that every protest you are there? What are you trying to fight for everything? I was like, no. When you look at all of these protests that I've been part of, they are all connected. They're very connected. I mean, the death of Omar Baji could as well as been me. When I was thrown in that pickup, if I had some spinal issues and the way I fell, I mean, my head could have hit. I mean, I think it saved me was my dreads actually, you know, because I felt really hard. You know, and everybody was like, hey, you need to go to the hospital. You know, why? Because they saw that. That could have been me. That could have been you. You know, you can be, because they can see you in the street and they profile, they say, oh, he looks like he smokes weed. And then in that push and pull, they kill you. You know, it could be any Gambia. And at the root of it is what? Is the lack of care, the lack of respect that the state shows its people. Because as above, so below. You know, if the above doesn't care for us, those ones under them will not care for us. If we have a leadership that cares for the masses of the Gambian people, works and spends all of its time to build a new society where there is no poverty or ignorance or disease, then the police, you will see a fundamental transformation within every crevice and corner of the state. You know, so going back to so police brutality, the removal of the Auditor General, the looting of Jame / the people's assets, you know, all of these are together. They are all interconnected by what? By a state that is dysfunctional. So at the root of it is, whilst we fight for a reform of certain things in this system, we must be building a social revolution from below.
So here is one of the things I also have an issue with. So for example, right now, some of the more complex issues that we are dealing with is, so you know, I told you the issue of a brother on the street with a brother.
Yes.
We look at the police, the military, the police, the paramilitary as them.
Yes.
And us. Okay? But if you look at it, they are not them. They are us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And we're both victims of the same infrastructure, of oppression, of incompetence, of corruption. And so, but we are the ones who get to meet on the street.
Yes.
Okay? So how do you get yourself out of a situation? It takes us to a place where, I think was it Fanon who says that you need to like the oppressor cannot have within his own powers to free himself. He has to be freed by the oppressed. So because the condition, the mental capacity, the capacity of the mind that created the condition cannot uncreate it. Because do you understand what I mean? So you have a police officer who is beating a small kid at that level, but that's all he's he doesn't have within him the capacity to rationalize this is wrong.
Yes, because you see, this is the thing, is that so when we live in an oppressive patriarchal society like this, where everybody who has a modicum of power,
Yeah.
you know, is bound to, you know, it's like a very masochistic, sadist society, where everybody, the father at home is trying to emphasize his power, you know, to beat the kids at will. The husband is trying to beat the wife. You know, the security guard at the bank is trying to show you his little powers. You know, it's everywhere you go. It's like this replication of how much power can I yield and how much can I use to make myself some sort of authority. You know, and that is a a psychological, psychosocial issue that must be we have to contend with. But at the root of also the policing system is the fact that police were created to protect private property and to protect, in our case, government and government wishes, not the people of the Gambia. I think we should make no mistake that under the current system, that our police are here to protect us.
They are supposed to.
Yes, that's what they are supposed to.
Yes.
But how many, if we know, when you use the supposed argument,
Yeah.
Barrow is supposed to be a good leader.
Yes.
Right?
But now Barrow is a beneficiary of the system.
Yes.
Okay. He's the beneficiary in chief.
Yes.
Because he's the queen of the beehive.
Yes.
Okay. The police officer is part of the system, but is one of the ragtags.
But the thing is,
he's not necessarily.
He is indoctrinated to believe that what he's doing is noble.
Yeah.
That what he's doing is actually, in fact, protecting the people of the Gambia from criminals. Yeah, he's been made to believe that. I mean, some of them.
Yeah, but that is one of the things you will have to confront.
Yes.
And so education, like that's why I referenced it. I think it should have been Ferreira's argument. That you have to educate, you have to get to that guy.
Yes.
To sort of understand that there is no side.
It's basically to build class consciousness.
Yeah.
You know, it's because what we do know is that let's say 99% of the Gambian police, class-wise, belong to with us.
They
the
belong
poor
to
people.
us, yes.
A lot of them got those jobs because they just wanted a salary. I don't think a lot of those people really woke up and said all their life they wanted to be police. No, it is just a job, you know. So how part of that political education is creating that class consciousness. Because the thing is, I don't know whether you've seen, I wrote recently on my Facebook that this notion of one Gambia, Bena Gambia, you know, we are all one. It's a fallacy. You know, there is a raging class struggle in this country. Yeah. On one side, you have those who had stolen, who had usurped, who are, you know, conniving to do those very things, and to connive, and to usurp the wealth of the people. And then on this side, you have this vast, wretched, oppressed majority of society.
Yeah.
And so usually with that type of situation, the class consciousness goes on in two stages. You have people recognizing that they are part of a class, yeah, and the second negation that it enters is they become a class for themselves. This is where
you will have to dismantle a lot of blocks in the mind.
Yes, because so that's why I said it's a long.
They cut the masses into many pieces.
Yes,
into tribe, into social structure,
into religion, into regionalisms.
Yes,
you know,
and a lot of
all of those
you have to cut.
All of those things have to be erased by one fundamental reality, which is
the condition.
Yes, that the class consciousness must become fundamental, and it must be clarified, you know, in a way that the people understand that, in fact, we are not enemies of each other. We don't have to be friends of each other, but we are also not enemies of each other. What we are faced with is that we have a certain group of people or a certain segment of society that had pitted us against each other, that turned us against each other, for them to be able to continually, control the means of production, of consumption, of distribution, you know, and that way they are wealthy, they're comfortable, they're privileged. So you see, this understanding must be built, but it's going to be a gradual process. But this is what happens.
And how long time do you
No,
have?
this is what happens. You see, Lenin, you know, Vladimir Ulyanov Lenin, the leader of the Russian Revolution of 1917, he says there is a week. There are decades where there's a week where a decade happens, you know. And that happens, you see, in Marxism, that's what we call the qualitative leap. There are conditions sometimes that can actually just, you know, push catapult people into consciousness so quickly.
Yeah.
You know, so of course, there are those moments, what we call the revolutionary moments, you know, that can qualitatively change things. And we must always sharpen the contradictions to get there.
Do you see that happening?
I mean, with the way things are going in Gambia,
yeah.
I think with the awakening, and also with the social media and how it has, you know, democratized information. And also, you see, one of the phenomena that I really like best is these people who report the news in the local languages. Usually, these young people, you know, in the various radio stations. So all segments of society is covered. People know what's going on.
Yeah, and they know what's going on, but people are still into their tribal. There are still tribal warlords. There are still religious warlords.
But that's the thing is, those things
people are still in their kabudus. And to build a unified force where the people see the interest, the communal interest, and see that we have to rise against oppression, and that one person oppressed is another person oppressed as well. Injustice anywhere, oppression anywhere, it's a threat to justice anywhere. It's going to be tough.
It is. You see, Mustapha, building a new society is hard.
Yeah.
And you see, for us, for example, being in the struggle, like right now, Gala is, you know, in this moment, it is popular.
Yeah.
People are listening. You know, these are all momentary, right?
Yeah.
So this is a mobilized force. But the real work comes when now we have to create an organized force. You have to move from mobilization to organization, from moments to movements, you know, to institutionalize the struggle, to sort of create institutions that are now institutions rising organically from below, from amongst the people. And that is not going to be an easy work. There is nothing more difficult than trying to destroy a century worth of indoctrination.
Yeah,
it's very difficult because everything is working against you.
So where do you see Gala moving towards that direction?
Gala, yes, Gala is going to consolidate itself, of course. And I mean, protest is one small part of the entire struggle, but it's also, Gala is going to be that organic organization amongst other organizations that will take up the historical task of trying to dismantle that indoctrination. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we must make an attempt at it. There's a story that Chairman Mao has. He talks about, he said there was this guy who had a mountain in front of his house. And every day he has a spade, yeah? He goes to dig, you know, a little just to take it out. And people told him, what a ridiculous man. What a ridiculous man. Why is he digging with a spade for a whole mountain? When is he going to be done? And when they asked him, he was like, my kids are here. When I die, they will continue. He said, Chairman Mao said, God looked at him and he was so moved by this guy's dedication, he just picked the mountain and moved it for him. So that's the thing, is that we must not become pessimistic. We must build a very fierce, radical hope amongst ourselves, but hope that is rooted in reality, not just illusions and delusions and fantasies, but a radical hope that we can actually change our condition. When we did that protest in May and we got arrested, yeah, that was a certain sacrifice that was made. Yeah. And it yielded dividends.
But that was what yielded dividends.
Yes. So you, for example, the work that you do, we know it's dangerous. Yeah. It is not safe. You know, you're going against, you're exposing people who have, you know, who are powerful in this society, yeah, who also have monopoly violence, and you know, and you don't have bodyguards or safe houses, you know, all of that. But somebody has to do it. Some people have to do it. The journey must begin somewhere, because
it seems it's going to be a long one.
It's going to be a long one, but
because suppose you get rid of Barrow in 2026.
Yes.
Suppose they get rid of Barrow in 2026. So what?
Yeah, we're just going to have...
even in the Gambia right now, all that you hear is politicians say, oh, we have to get rid of Barrow. Barrow must go. So if Barrow goes, so what?
Because, you see, that's the thing. That's where the problem is. That very thing, Barrow must go.
That's the most
because
important if Barrow goes,
the system is still there.
Yeah, but
and who is going to replace him? And what's that person's program?
But that's not what is answered, right?
Exactly. But people just want... See, this anything but theory. Anyone but Barrow is very dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, we must be clear who is going to be there. What do they want for the people? Who are their allies? Who are their enemies? Because we forget that there's a very important bit of this political process. Who are they aligning with?
Yes.
Yeah. For example, I will be very uncomfortable voting for a U.S. Army veteran to you know, somebody who has served the greatest imperialist power that has pillaged and destroyed people, and you have served in that army, which is the most organized terror group in the world, the U.S. Army, which has been at war for the past 60, 70 years. On a continue, I would not be comfortable to vote for someone like that, who has had loyalty, who had given his loyalty at some point in his life to this imperialist project. And I've not seen it clearly where they have denounced that project. You know, so these things are important. Who are the allies of these political figures? Who are their enemies? Who do they consider to be their allies? Are they progressives or not? Are they just monopoly capitalists or some crony capitalists are their friends? What do they really want? Do they want to empower private sector investment to the detriment of public enterprises?
Private-led growth.
Yes, private-led growth, which is a ridiculous notion, you know, because the government can only bluster this country through public enterprise. You have to invest in the public enterprises. Of course, that doesn't mean you have to curb private investment, but your primary objective is to invest through the state, through its public enterprises, to create some sovereign national wealth that can be used by the people.
What do you think is going to be the future of the Gambia? If you look right now on all the activities, all the things that are happening, what do you think is going to be the political future? Because of course we know Gala, it's one element. Works that folks like me are doing is another element. Investigative journalism, advocacy, those are things on their own. But politically, how do you see this movements, little efforts shaping into a much bigger political picture? What do you think?
Right now, the political future of this country is very muddled, right? We know that the perpetuation of this system will continue for a while. It will be here. We know that looking at even the political situation, chances are that Barrow might actually win this election, you know, and what that means basically is we will continue, it's going to be business as usual. And that's a very bleak future for this country. But I think there is a rising consciousness among young people, you know, meeting young people during all these activities. You know, there is a different sort of outlook. People are getting a little bit more courageous. People are getting a little, people are uncovering their lies. They're seeing the lies that they're fed, you know, not completely, but people are beginning to realize that something is fundamentally wrong, but also they're believing in the fact that it can be changed, you know. So that is a fundamental shift from when we were growing up, where, you know, there was a lot of mysticism around politics, you know, that is changing, you know. People are even actually now questioning the hegemony of certain political figures, you know, in this country, you know. Back in the day, you don't even do that. You know, people are like, no. If people do it, they did it based maybe on tribal lines or on urban, rural divide lines. But now people are actually questioning the merit of political figures. You know, so I feel like there is hope, but it must be nurtured through action. That we cannot just complain. You know, Gambians, we love to complain a lot, but we really don't do much. And when you publish something, where everybody will be complaining, this is what they did. No, no, no. But why are we going to rise up and do something about it? But going even beyond reacting to such news like that is now to start creating a progressive culture, where we have that political educational process. So there is that future that we can build, because the future doesn't create itself. It is created by people. We have to become, we have to move from being passive objects in history to become active subjects, active subjects in the creation of a new society. The future doesn't create itself. It's either we remain unconscious and it's created by people for us, that's not a good idea. Or we rise up, enter into a rational and objective consciousness and try to change the future. So the future that you are asking about should and must be created by the people themselves.
Thank you very much for being on the Verified, Alieu.
Yes,
I'm glad
welcome.
to know there is hope.
Yes, there is
Thank
a
you.
radical hope.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.